Howdy hackers and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. Most of the episodes that we are covering are rather technical, but this one is quite different from that. The ambition this time is to cover more the interaction between humans, the people involved, the groups, the roles that each of the individual can take to participate in the scene activities, and how that changed over time. In order to cover that rather complex area, I wanted to have some sort of sparring partner who is also managing one of the groups and who also has kind of a long-standing reputation as manager of a group, and I hence picked Hedning of Genesis Project, a group we have picked on a number of times in the show, and I've also asked Hedning for a number of times to participate, but he has been sort of reluctant to be here, and the key reason for that is that he is keen to keep his personal life separated from his scene life, and for that reason he's also asked not to participate like over video, just using like his voice, and in order to still have some sort of visual representation from him, we've used the Sarge's picture from one of the bonsai demos, where Hedning is also featured. Super nice picture, by the way, by the Sarge. So the scene. Let's take a little bit before we go into the actual discussion here. So for me, the scene is a place, or the scene as a general term is a place where people of a common interest interact. You would have places where it's used, like the grunge scene of Washington State, or the punk scene in London during the 80s, or the EMD scene in Stockholm during periods of time, and that means that there are a number of people with a common interest that interact to develop that style of music, and pretty much the same could be applicable also for like the computer scene. We are a number of people sharing and sort of an interest in computers, and while doing so, we try to find fitting roles that sort of matches our skill set, and then we participate according to our interest and skill sets to produce something that is viable for a group that we work with. So for me, that is what the scene is. It's a playground for like-minded people with a sort of a collective shared interest. But we will go through a number of the aspects of this. So just sit tight, relax, and keep watching, because you would have me and Hedning discuss that at length. Over to Hedning. Howdy hackers and welcome again. So we are here with Hedning of Genesis Project. The content of today is the sociology of the scene. That's sort of a new thing. Nobody sort of discussed that before, but and the roles one could have within the scene to be part of the scene. And I found no better participant to have as a speaking partner than Hedning of Genesis Project. Hello, Hedning.
Hello. Nice to be here.
How are you today?
I'm just fine. It's sunny, snowy, and I'm home because of a sick kid. So I have time to talk to you, finally.
And you have been, or you are rather like picture shy, so that is why we're sharing this great picture from Sarge that depicts you.
Yeah, we can say it like that. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have taken, we've gone to great lengths to actually kind of cut you out of the videos from Gubbdata because you didn't want to be part of it. So we of course acknowledge that everybody has the right not to be shown.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not shy, as people know from parties, but being on a FairLight television broadcast is a bit too much for me.
And one of the other discussions we had is that you say that we should speak Swedish because Swedes speaking English means that their IQ is lower to 50%. But the good thing is that we are too, so we could possibly sum up to 100% then.
Yeah, hopefully we do that. Yeah.
Okay, so today the roles and responsibilities within a group and also how they change over time. We are both deeply rooted on the C64, of course, but you have been on the Atari ST scene, and I guess I have a bit of an insight on other scenes. So I hope we can sort of cover that, even if that's sort of not our like native environment.
Yeah.
And I have distributed this into blocks. So one is the general talk about the scene, then about groups, and then roles. First of all, like general, what is the leader doing, and then the demo section, a crack section, distribution, and well, external communication and other sorts of role. That's sort of where I am. And at the last, competition and the future.
Yeah,
how does
sounds
that sound?
interesting. Very interesting. It's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, great. And given that you are also a leader of a group that has been around for decades, I guess your view is highly valued here. So, and you being a leader, so what do you say are sort of the main responsibilities of somebody leading a group?
Leader, yeah, organizer. I would
Organizer,
say
yeah.
I would say organizer, because leader is more bossy, I think, or boss is more bossy. Leader is maybe it's a good word. Leader, you lead, you take part of the group and point out the direction, whatever that could be. Yeah, the responsibilities to get stuff done, I would say. In short.
Yeah, so I recruiting, keep the operations going, adding energy.
Yeah.
I mean, if energy is low, I guess the person organizing needs to be the one responsible to ensuring that there is always sort of energy, and also possibly planning ahead. Those are the things I've noted.
Yeah, that's about it, actually. And you have to have some skills yourself, I guess, to be a good organizer. We can probably talk about that too. What makes a good organizer?
Yeah. Well, shoot. No, do that right now. There is no better way than doing it now. What is sort of the role?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a good organizer myself, but I think you have to be kind of a social. Me being a teacher professionally helps a lot, I would say. Sometimes it feels like when you're working with a scene group, you're actually dealing with a lot of problems, like in a classroom. You over there, you should be silent right now, and you should not sit beside that guy. That's not a good thing. And you two work very well, but you're not very social, so perhaps you would like to sit there. And sometimes I look at it as a extension of my profession as a teacher. And nowadays we're dealing with 50-year-olds, but in the scene people can be quite childish and grumpy and too happy and whatever.
Yeah, well, you always need to mitigate when two members sort of fight. I don't know how big that is with you, but we've had a few of those instances where...
Yeah, we have had that too, of course.
People wanting to rage quit and being totally angry with somebody else for doing something which I found to be totally insignificant. But I mean, it's if it feels important to them, of course it is important, even if from an external perspective it's a ridiculous argument. But Okay, and this, what kind of role you have? For me, I've always sort of tried to lead by example, and for me the biggest thing is still kind of keep the energy up, and one way to keep the energy up is leading by example, never being lazy myself, thereby sort of denying everybody the argument of being lazy because I am.
Okay, I have more of a, I don't know, human approach. I'm human,
Yeah.
so real life first. Nowadays, that's a thing. I think back in the days when people stayed home from school to release the latest crack or whatever, I wasn't into that very much. But today, people have, grown-up lives. We have families, we have work, we have stuff to do. So in Genesis project, we always talk about real life first, and it's a bit more human these days than working your ass off all night to do stuff, I would say.
Here I would say C64 is also more relaxed. I know that cracking on the PC, if your life sucks and you are on drugs, it's fine as long as you release the crack. Whereas that's not really how it's done on the C64.
No. And I have never been in the wear scene on the PC or anything like that, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, I have sort of a distant view of it. I oversee it from.
You've read stuff.
Yeah,
online. Yeah.
And I also did hang out with them on our cruises and all of that. So yes, I know them. Some of them I know personally. So what about? I mean, your Genesis project operation, that's only C64 at the moment, right? You're not on any other platform.
We are on Atari, Amiga, PC. Game Boy. We have done Game Boy stuff, Wii stuff. I would say we're a pretty good multi-platform group these days, if people want to do that. But the main focus is the C64, as always. So I would say over 90% of the productions are C64 productions.
And those other platforms, are they done by the same people, or do you have like dedicated people for those platforms?
We have dedicated people for coding on the Atari ST, and then we have the graphicians and musicians. They love to do modules or modern PC stuff too. We have Hardy on PC doing mostly 4K PC stuff, and he will pick some members from the C64 scene to do some graphics and stuff like that on PC too. So there are exchanges, but we have separated the different platforms and dedicated persons working with that platform, of course. But then there is a lot of creative people that jump in and out wherever they feel like it.
So, and leading groups across platforms, how do you see that? Do you have like sub-responsibles for the different divisions, or are you leading all of it hands-on?
It's mostly C64, so, and I'm not very much hands-on. People are working in clusters in Genesis, so we have some members working very well together, and they're a little cluster, and they can ask for small stuff here and there from others, but it's more an organic growing thing. I'm more of a gardener than a boss. I cut a little there, I water a little there, and then it just grows up. I like that approach, actually. More, I like it much more than I've been to one of your planning meetings, actually, and I felt very alien there. It was more as if not to be rude, but it felt like a professional meeting in a company somehow, and that's very far from what I do.
To be honest, that very few of those things actually materialize. So it was more of a social thing to gather energy rather than
the partying.
Actually...
The partying was great.
Yeah, we tend to be really good at that.
Yeah,
and here I could compare it to FairLight, because I mean the PC cracking, that's very specific. It's a specific number of people doing that. Also, like PC demo. It's a number of people doing that, and they are self-sufficient, and that was sort of the ideology between Build Stronger to Last Longer, that we should have small subgroups, and one of them could die and the group wouldn't die. So the FairLight franchise is more like a holding company, whereas all the subgroups on the individual platforms are more like separate groups. Some members are common, but it's sort of only within the same structure, and we can easily lose one of the legs without dying as a person. That was sort of the general idea of structure.
Yeah, the FairLight centipede.
No, that's not it, because we're not stitched together, which means that one of them can die without the centipede dying. So no, it's actually the other way around.
All right. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so that's sort of the philosophy between for running a group. But yeah, let's start with the crack. So the crack section or the crack initiatives within groups. So for me, I sort of isolated supplier, cracker, and producer of docs. Would you say there are other sort of members needed for the actual production of a crack? Distribution is separate, so.
No, I think you're right. We have dedicated crackers and suppliers. Sometimes a cracker can get something, of course, and then they supply it themselves. But we have separate people looking for old stuff that isn't available online and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you're right. And this, the documentation I mostly do myself. So I have worked very much with Siren. So we are self-sufficient little mini group, and then we have the other crackers working more together. I would say I'm pretty important for stitching that together myself, actually.
Well, I guess we should add like a Q&A, so the so quality assurance here.
Yeah. We have testers too.
Yeah. That's also really important. That was never a thing in the past. From my perspective, you as a cracker, you implemented the trainer and you played the game through, and I don't remember any time from the 80s where we had like dedicated testing people for ensuring that everything was fine.
Exactly, and everyone could theoretically test games, but there are certain persons that are really, really good at it. And we have, for example, one guy dedicated to text adventures in Genesis, Whisper. He's really good at that, so he's doing that, and he can make walkthroughs and in no time for a huge text adventure, and that's what he does. Yeah,
that's
really
special.
Great.
That's
very special, very specialized. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we rather not touch the text adventures.
I like them. I think they are great. It's a big thing on the C64, and there are coming out a lot of the new ones too. Great ones, actually.
Okay, so if you look at how the roles evolve, I mean, first of all, a supplier, that role is basically the same on C64, PC, and Amiga. I mean, getting an original, it's just that the means might be very different. On PC, you do get new games, whereas we also have one part of the supplier sphere that keeps digging for old stuff that wasn't released in the past. That's not something available on the PC, I guess.
Exactly. On the C64, what I think is most fun of the whole thing is just the archaeology thing of it. That's that's what I could do all day. Finding old obscure games that no one ever heard of, and that hopefully is good, and save it to help the scene and help the C64 thrive.
Yeah.
I'm pretty uninterested in new games. It feels like it's not really a big thing anymore for me nowadays.
And what the cracker is doing is sort of still the same. It's back in the old days, you were cracking very difficult stuff, and now you're more doing difficult stuff with something where the cracking part might not be that difficult.
Not with old stuff.
Yeah,
when you find old games,
Mm.
you still have to crack them. That's the
Mm.
difference between having fun in archaeology, where you actually have to crack stuff, compared to nowadays GitHub scene, where they just interlink something and put in 1 or 2 trainers. I think that's pretty boring.
It has very little to do with cracking as well,
Yeah,
because I mean,
exactly.
if you have the source available, it's not really cracking. It's when you can assemble it yourself. There is no that is not cracking skill. That is something totally different.
Exactly, but bug fixing and stuff like that has evolved dramatically the last 10 years, I would say. And that's really good. You put out effort and you give people something even better than the original. That's
but then you're not. I mean, if you put a project on GitHub, the idea would be that if you find errors, you should push some sort of you should push that back to the GitHub repository as a suggested change. But I don't guess that is not really done by any of the cracker groups.
No, because then you help someone else, I guess, some other group to grab a fixed thing, stuff like that. It's still a bit competitive, of course, to be first with something, but be first with a GitHub thing, I don't know. It's strange.
And also, given that we will get to the competition part, but I mean, given that some of the lists give you the opportunity of releasing the game in, I don't know, 3-4 different iteration, and you get points on lists for each of the releases, and sometimes the changes between the iterations is so slim that it's basically useless.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Okay, so I mean, but so digging for old stuff, digging for a GitHub repository, but I mean, there are still like real races. When people think of cracking, it's getting your intro on something and then getting it out. And there is a race towards somebody else who is also doing the same thing to be the fastest. Stuff released for Zap64, itch.io and stuff. That's still a thing, right? So
I think so. We quit the list thing because we disagreed with how it was run by the big list. There was always many lists before, but today there's only one that counts. And I shouldn't talk much about that, but we're not doing that anymore. We're doing stuff because it's fun, and if we're fast, people are happy, and that's what we do.
And you still appear on the list. It's just that it's not sort of driving why you are doing it. You exactly. Just accidentally consequentially appear there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm still missing the old Gamers Guide, where it's not only the fight for the first slot, but also the best slot. And
the quality is good. Yeah,
I still haven't managed somebody to make that kind of a solution for me, and I'm not qualified to do it myself. So
no, same here. It takes too much time to research every release and test run them and check everything. Family is too important.
Yeah, I do agree, absolutely. So let's move into distribution then. I mean, for here I noted swappers, mega swappers, spreaders. That's sort of traditional distribution via post mostly, and then you have the modem traders, and possibly you can also kind of put sysops in here and people running dump sites, if we're also looking at the PC side, and people contributing by building server hardware for dump sites and that. But for me here, a number of the roles have faded. Some have grown in importance, but some has absolutely diminished. Like anything related to post spreading is sort of obsolete.
Yeah, if I do that these days, it's just for fun. You send a disk to Siren just because of old times.
Yeah. Do you buy new disks?
I have. Yeah. I got American new old stock. I think I bought like 500 empty disks. So yeah.
So swappers, for me, if we describe what the role is doing, and here I guess it's a bit vague. For me, a swapper is somebody sending out stuff, expecting to get stuff back, whereas a spreader is more like I'm sending stuff out. I just want the disk back so I can send again. But and if you have to send something back, please do it, but don't bother, because the key thing is for me to get thing out.
Exactly, I would say so. Yeah.
And what about modem traders? This is sort of one of the areas where where this could be a bit touchy. So that's why I want to jump in there.
Well, modem traders back in the days, I mean, they were very important to get one thing from US to Europe or the other way around, and then get that file to or disk to a swapper, I guess, or spreader to get it out. Yeah, and import the importers importing stuff. Today, not so much. I would say the modem traders, I know I have a few guys contacting me to just, can I spread this on all boards, please? And I think it's because of nostalgia. And I say, okay, fine, do that, so I don't have to do it.
Well, I was always rather, I mean, for me, you need to have some sort of skill to contribute, and you could argue that somebody copying 100 disks and posting them, that doesn't really take any specific skills, but for me it takes stamina. So if you do that year after year, you have proven yourself that you are willing, possibly not doing the most brainy part of the scene, but still putting the effort in to greatly contribute to what the group wants to do.
Yeah, otherwise the stuff would end up in 2-3 disk boxes somewhere, and never be spread, and there would be no scene.
Right.
So yeah.
Whereas my view on modem traders has always been that they could easily be replaced by a trained monkey.
Well,
prove me wrong. I should have the little sign over my head say "prove me wrong," but
well, you have to have contacts. You have to have. Back in the days, it was you had to have calling cards, and it costed money if you didn't have calling cards and stuff like that. I wasn't never into that very much, but it takes skill to get into the right boards, and yeah, that's a scene of its own. I think it's very, I respect them, and they were of course more important back in the days than today. Today you have to get your stuff out on like 3, 4, 5 boards, and then it will be spread by random guys anyhow. And people will download the stuff on internet either way.
And I know we have discussed BBSs a number of times privately, but I mean, the role of the BBS, that's part of the spreading of sort of the commercial software on C64. CSDB is always there, but if you put it out on CSDB and you are putting out commercial software, the link is hidden for a year. And if anybody would like to get their hands on that sort of a cracked commercial game, they need to go to the BBSs. And I think, to be honest, I sort of respect that aspect of it, because then you are making the commercial game less available for most people. So
yeah, and I think it's important to, we are playing around with old computers, 40-year-old gear, and doing stuff for very old computers. And the BBS scene is also a vital part of that scene, and has a tradition and have its fans, and it's important for the scene to support that, I would say. So I think it's a good thing to support even that scene, and that's why I really like to help the BBS scene to thrive, and doing it by releasing cracks specifically there and nowhere else. It's really helping, I think. So it's keeping it kicking.
Well, I do acknowledge that there is a point in having a distribution mechanism which is very restricted to only a few, to ensure that the commercial software could still have sort of a commercial lifespan. But and I also know that we already said that the major list is built on the timestamp that is sort of the aggregate between a number of those BBSs, and that's where it's getting so messy that I just hate it.
Yeah, I know. You would like a modern little timestamp thing on an FTP or something, and it would be very, very easy for, especially you, to do it. And it would be no discussion who was first, of course. I understand that. Still, I think having an important thing like first releasing on the boards make the boards thrive, and that's the most important for me, because I want the boards to be there. And they actually, the BBS scene has grown the latest 10 years from, you know, if you look at 15 years ago, there was 2, 3, maybe, Antidote and the Hidden was online sometimes. There wasn't very many boards up, but today there are a lot of them. And I think the cracking scene helped a lot to get that scene vitalized.
Where do you see CSDB in this? And again, that's very CS64 specific, of course, but...
it is. For me, I'm a moderator there too. So I look at it, and it might be provocative to some, I guess. I look at it as solely a archival thing. Everything about the C64 scene should be there. And that's the goal with it. And then the site itself has functions that, like the forum and voting and stuff like that, that makes it a proto social media thing, I would say, which confuse people, I guess, because they see it as the scene itself. But people are very angry if they can't join because they're not sceners. And then there is this huge discussion. What is the scene then? Why can't I be a scener? If I choose to be a scener, I would like to log in. But the main point with it is the archival business. And if you're not a user contributing to that, in my dream world, we would only have archivers, people doing archive stuff there and helping out with a database. It's even in the name, C64 database. So that's my interest, the database thing. I'm a historian as well, so I love the archival and archaeology searching thing.
Well, let's touch on preservation then, because that might be a good way to kind of add that to the topic here. I thought of having that as a separate thing in the end, but let's talk about that here. So the preservation and maintaining our little slice of nerd history. How do you see that in general?
I'm very interested in that. That's the main thing, and also a male thing. Very male thing. To concentrate for 10 years straight, dumping floppies and getting old stuff archived and saved for prosperity. It's that's really interesting. I love it, and I learned so much during these years. I have been dumping tens of thousands of floppies and going through them. I'm part of the Assembly 64 testing thing too, using it every day. It's really interesting. And the C64 scene it's so huge. I can't see any other platform competing with the C64. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, having people work their ass off to ensure that every little piece of software ever released for the platform is available basically for all eternity in a structured way. That's hat off. That's massive work.
Yeah, it is. And of course, people have different opinions about how it should be done. And there's fights every week about what's the scene? Should this program be here? It's not a scene release, and this is not a scener, and that is a scener, and blah 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 blah. But the main thing is that without CSDB, don't know what we would be today. And the C64 thrives out of it. It's the main release platform for new stuff as well. People go there and grab the new stuff. But for me, it's mainly about the history. It's fantastic to just click around and see who was in which group and quit when, and you research scroll text to get more information, and then you search through disc mags to get information about quitting dates and when the group had problems and how it was saved, and it's a fantastic story.
Well, yeah, yes, but I mean, if you're just interested in the history, the part that is sort of dead, if you also facilitate the location for people to interact with it, that will eventually be history. So it's sort of, history documents itself by the interaction that happens there. So it saves you work in the future if people do it themselves here and now when we're still active and doing it.
True. And I don't know what will happen with it in 50 years. Who knows? Will it be backed up on an archive.org site? I hope so, somehow. Everything in a big blob.
I mean, given that you are a moderator, how would you see it evolve? Is there any like bigger plans for moving it forward to something, or is it just fine as it is?
I like it as it is, but that's me. People always want more shiny stuff and more, especially tech guys. I'm not a tech guy. I can't code. I'm not at all interested in it. I just want a working. It's clumsy. It's 2002 code, and of course there are nicer, new, shiny solutions to everything. But then again, if you do that move from a obviously working thing, it works. And you do a new shiny CSDB, CSDB reloaded or whatever. Then in 10 years, someone else would say, oh, because the wheels are turning faster and faster. And now there is a new shining thing and a new shining thing. And people want new, shiny. And I don't know. I'm fine with what's actually working. And of course, you can discuss if it's working good or bad, but it's obviously there. And there is no competition.
I mean, the user interface doesn't really fit the mobile, and given that the consumption of this is more and more mobile, the UI part is not because it should be new. It's just that if it doesn't support the relevant use case for a number of people, then it would be.
There are for the for the majority of the users, there are solutions for that, of course. And Mr. Sid, he made this C64 scene app, which takes makes it mobile friendly. But for that about 20 people that actually do work on CSDB, if I'm rude.
No, that's absolutely true.
CSDB is enough, I guess. It's good enough for us, at least.
But then the other kind of category that you're pointing out here, would you say that the workflow of adding stuff to CSDB is as efficient as it could? Because if you're adding 10,000 entries, every second counts. Because
well, I don't want to. If it's too easy, I don't know. I'm doing a lot of corrections too, People running in, adding stuff, wrong size on the screenshot, blah, blah, blah. There's always stuff to do and clean up after others. And I learned the hard way myself. I did a lot of errors in the beginning. But then, I don't know. If it's too easy it's not easy to join in the first place. And if you're going to archive, you have to know a lot of stuff. And you learn slowly how it's being run. But as I said, it's 20. I guess it's 20 important people doing all the work there. That's how many that are really active on CSDB as I see it. Then there are all the forum drama guys and the complainers sitting on IRC, farting about how good everything should be and how good it was back in the days and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, that's the old story. How many programmers does it take to change a light bulb?
Yeah, exactly.
100, one to do it, and 99 to tell how they would do it more differently. That would be a
Exactly.
lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move into the other things here. So communication, stuff like more modern communication, YouTube, Facebook, Mastodon, or whatever. And I mean, running your own website, places to meet and communicate with potential fans. I guess your view is sort of slightly negative in relation to that, right?
Well, I use Facebook and to you know, flash stuff we do to get stuff out. We have stuff on YouTube demos. If people can't ask themselves to start an emulator, they can watch it on YouTube. But it's crazy to watch a C64 demo on YouTube, actually. Technically, how many megabytes of data must be streamed for this 170k disk? It's crazy, but sure, to get it out and get an easy SID music playing in the car, watching something on the run, it's great with YouTube and Facebook, of course.
But how important do you feel that sort of marketing is in general? I mean, making yourself seen and available on social media on people outside of the sort of core of the active people.
Outside of the scene, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, really. I never thought of it very much. Of course, you have your fan base or whatever you want to call it, but it's just nice, retro-interested people. You meet them at every party and every place you move around online anyhow. So I don't know. It's not that important for me. You get stuff out, and if you do good stuff, someone else will put it on YouTube anyhow. So it drives itself. If something is good, it will be shown. It will be spread. It will be like every release ever did. If you promote your stuff too much and you do shitty stuff, it's just embarrassing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. For me, it's more owning your narrative. So you convey the message. You are not depending on somebody else packaging it for you and putting it out there.
Of course, but they will do it anyhow. Even if you have your own channel with your, say on YouTube, and you have your FairLight recorded demo with the right colors and sound, there are 20 others that will do shitty captures, and they will be spread, and they will be. You can't own the scene. It's not a company. It's not.
No. Of course not. I mean, companies also do not own their own narratives, but at least they are sort of putting their narrative out there in order to have, like, at least to ensure that view is also present in the mix.
Yeah. That's true.
We've had a bigger discussion on this, of course, internally, where Pantaloon wasn't very, very keen on our social media presence. Productions should speak for themselves, and we shouldn't really speak about the productions. Very much like Dardel or any of the painters saying that the art should stand on its own feet, and you shouldn't comment on it because it has the meaning it has for the viewer, and what I think of it is irrelevant. I don't necessarily agree with that point of view.
I like Pantaloon even more now. He's a very wise man. Art pour art, as they said in the 1890s.
Is that the art stands for itself, or?
Yeah, exactly, in French.
I know French. I just didn't catch that.
No, I can't speak French either, but I know how it's supposed to. I can spell it at least. I can't pronounce it.
Okay.
But the art for its own sake. Yeah. That's that's my point of view also. And that's the most boring part of today's super mega internet influencer shit. I don't like that. I do it because we put out everything in the GP flow on Facebook, but that's about it. It's killing my soul. Every hour I have to sit and do modern social media thing with C64 things.
Okay. Yeah, let's agree to disagree. If we don't market it, if we don't make ourselves available, if people don't see that it can still be done, there is not even a remote and theoretical possibility that somebody would find it interesting and eventually join because they have seen that it's still done. So
yes, but in my point, the scene shouldn't be. It should be a little more mystery, a little more in the background, not being on the front page of whatever newspaper you see, and in every book everywhere. It should be a little. Yeah, I like the mystery thing about the scene, and today's completely transparent social media screaming of information everywhere. It's destroying the magic with it a bit if you push it too far.
Well, to be honest, I sort of missed that, because my first talking point here was the scene, and we went directly to the groups. And let me just read what I've written here. So for me, the scene is not like a secret mafia with membership, initiation rights, and so on. It's more a movement, like the grunge scene in Seattle or the European punk scene. And here I also think that the analogy with music is rather interesting, because they also have groups. They also have sort of a chain where you can start your own group and become known under that group, and then but eventually a number of people start with their classmates and they play punk music, and they realize that 3 out of the 4 members are idiots, and you leave that group and you go to a bigger, more known group because you've sort of now proven yourself. So for me, that is very much like what the scene is and has been all the time. So it's not it's not a membership. We don't have scene membership cards, and we don't have the secret membership greetings, so we're not Freemasons either.
No, but it's still I miss the nerdy, shady stuff, the nerdy underground feeling about it. That's one point I had with the Gubbdata parties I organized, because that's a very important part of the scene, that you actually meet in person. And today's online activities are a good complement, but I would say that the physical meetings are very important, and has been for a long time. And I had an invite-only party, and that felt very elitist of me. People complained that they couldn't just come to Gubbdata, but there are 2 reasons for that. And one is the space. I can only have about 100 people there, and then also people they go there to meet, active sceners, if you know what I mean. Not just random retro gathering in Sweden. You know what that is? Everyone that's having a hobby for retro computers or gaming or whatever. If they start to show up too much on and it's complicated, because yes, it's elitist, of course, of the scene to be exclusive, but at the same time, it's more fun if you meet your, what would you say, your creative idols. I look very much forward to meet Mr. Zeta again, for example, and I don't know if he would show up and get on stage on a random.
For sure, not on retro gathering. But,
but on a little shady copy party thingy. Yeah, that's more fun. And it shouldn't be too big either. I think it should be a little more exclusive, and that was what I thought about Gubbdata. People liked it because they met who they thought they would meet. But it felt elitist. I know that. and that's not very democratic. And I don't think the scene was very democratic ever.
No, it's a meritocracy, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is.
I mean, there is a pyramid, and there should be a strive to kind of move to the next level. And now, because the pyramid itself is rather small, the distance between the top and the bottom is rather short, and I guess. All the social interaction makes that also. You're not one of those unreachable names who is doing voodoo stuff.
No, but yeah, it's complicated because it feels like you're evil when you stop people from entering your party because they're not invited. You know. Yeah.
Well, I mean the pyramid is one thing, and eliteness and wanting to be at the top of the pyramid is one thing, but the hidden part, I mean, cracking was sort of the first thing that arrived before people started doing demos, and you had the telephone fraud and post fraud and all of that very closely associated what we were doing. So back in the days, there was a very valid reason for keeping it a bit concealed. And I guess I have no idea about the history of handles, but it also made sense to use some sort of anonymize yourself using a handle, so everybody knew that you were that, but they didn't know your real name. So but
exactly,
that is mostly gone as well, right? So
and you have your you had your post box back in the day instead of your real address, and especially in Germany, of course, because it was shady stuff you did, and with the cracking scene back then. But I feel like demo sceners are more open with their real names these days, at least.
Yeah, you had a number of people actually starting to skip the entire handle thing and use and release stuff under their own real name. I had a discussion with Pex on Fjelldata, and that was also part of FairLight TV on the interview, that when he released Noise Tracker, there was absolutely no reason to kind of conceal his real name. So it was Pex Mahoney Tufvesson and Anders Berkeman, Anders Kaktus Berkeman. Real names, not hiding anything.
No, because they did something they were really, really proud of, and they wanted to link that thing to themselves, of course. Yeah.
So, one of the more philosophical questions. Do you believe that there is one scene for all of the computer activities, or is there one scene per platform, or is there a demo scene on C64 which is different from the demo scene on any other platform? How do you kind of differentiate scenes? Is there one or many? And if there is many, how do you sort of sort them?
I would say back in the days, it was very much more divided, platform for platform, and even wars between Atari ST and Amiga, for example. They hated each other. Today, I mean, all the retro platforms, if we talk about the retro platforms, we are all losers, right? We lost the war. Now it's just Apple and PC, and an Apple is just a PC. So there is no platform wars today, I would say. But
we still all hate Ataris.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Today, I really appreciate Amiga stuff. I can, for my life, never understand the operating system. And I got a lot of Amigas. I just want them to work so I can watch demos. But on the Atari, I enjoy working with the computer, because I know it, of course. But today I own Ataris, Amigas, every retro platform that interests me. I would like to have the hardware at home. I don't care. But scene-wise, you can look at Shadow in Genesis Project. He's coding for every platform he thinks is interesting, especially the more obscure, the better. He likes to push boundaries on every platform available. But of course, not every coder is fluently in every architecture.
Shadow is weird, and weird in the best possible way. I love weird, so so when I say that Shadow is weird, that is a sincere compliment.
Yeah, he is. It's fantastic. But then, we have different platforms. I think the C64 scene should be very proud of not even being not only being the biggest scene ever, but still the most active of them all today, I would say. I think more production are pushed out by the C64 scene today than that PC scene, actually.
It's interesting to see the release graphs where the C64 was massively growing and then diminished when the Amiga came.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like 10 years ago, started to pick up and overtook everybody. And now it's basically a fight between the C64 and the PC, where I think the C64 is actually now the stronger one. I don't have any current data on it, but
I think we are correct. Then, of course, coming back to CSDB, it drives a lot of online competitions, and it's easier to make a Petsky compo on CSDB with 300 entries. That doesn't happen on this PC, so it's unfair to say that if you only count the amount of releases, it's unfair. But I think even if you look at let's say the demo scene with demos and intros, I would say the C64 dominates more or less. It's interesting. It's really it's also worrying because it means that we are seeing the end of the scene with the C64 guys being the first and the last generation of sceners. Hopefully not, but
yeah. Well, the opportunities of recruiting new people is very limited, and to be honest, I'd say the average age on the PC is a lot lower than the average age on the C64. And if you are somebody seeking like the artistic expression of making demos, then PC is normally your natural platform.
Yeah, but youngsters, I mean, I meet a lot of teenagers in my work, of course. They are mostly interested in retro platforms because modern platforms are moving so quickly into more excellent graphics and music things. And the teens are looking backwards. They're looking back to older music. There is a huge retro trend. Right now it's the 90s. Everything in the 90s are super cool. They're walking around with Nirvana t-shirts and they look like when I was in high school, which is scary. And they are also interested in, they even buy Commodore 128s and some people, they really nerd themselves into, gamers. They like to have the real, it's like the LP renaissance. Youngsters it's a bit hipstery to run around with LPs and they want that in the gaming thing too. So they buy expensive upscalers and buy a Super Nintendo and show all their friends that they are doing the right thing, the true thing. And they are always talking about how fake everything is today. Everything is fake. And the old computers and the old music, that's true. So they want the true experience, and I think the C64 is true.
It's really true. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And if you look at demos from the PC, and don't kill me now, listeners, the PC scene, you don't know what you're seeing. It looks like, for me, it's like turning on the TV and watch some movie or something. I don't know. I can't tell I don't understand what's happening. It's just, it looks good, of course. It sounds good, but it could be whatever modern experience thing from Hollywood or from FairLight or from whatever. I don't know what's happening, and I don't know if it's any efforts in it or if it's just the graphics card doing all the magic or if it's the C64 is so limited. It's fun to see, and it's clear border. Everyone knows the boundaries of the C64, and when these are expanded it's amazing. Every time something new, everyone knows this is so cool.
Yeah, C64, yes and no. I mean, there are kind of technical challenges which might not look visually stunning, but if you start digging yourself into the technical complexity of making them, then your mind boggles.
Yeah.
And LFT's greetings part, the one where he explained in my interview with him, that's sort of beyond me. It's the sprite cruncher thingy. It was...
yeah, it's amazing.
Getting my head around that. I don't have a head big enough to get my head around that. That was...
Exactly. And also, you know, when you expand that to other platforms as well, the Amiga, for example, what is an Amiga? Everyone knows what a C64 is, but an Amiga, it could be a 500, 1200, I don't know, with extra mem, with turbo, whatever, 060, 040.
Amiga, and even PowerPC versions.
Exactly.
And all of that. Is it the operating system? Is it the community? Is it the physical piece of hardware? Is it... And most people would have sort of a different take, which part of that they embrace as theirs, and they can live without the others.
So I would say even from 85 and the 90s, platforms were like more and more foggy. What is that computer? What can it do? What can it be? And the C64 is the last monolithic platform standing there with monkeys touching it, you know.
So and I mean, more on the scene here. Where do you see sort of the scene ending, or not in time, but the bystanders, the people watching the productions, are they part of the scene, or are they consumers outside of the scene?
Well, the scene wouldn't be the scene if people didn't watch the stuff. And everything you do for the public to enjoy. And if people want to join the scene, they can do that. And there are always roles to fill. So I feel the scene is very welcoming and open. But you have to know something, or find you have to find your skills yourself and show you're worthy, which I think you wanted to talk about too. You back in the days, you moved from small local lamer groups up to more and more elite groups, and I would say that's the same today. You start out going to a party, maybe you see this cool, you see all the cool stuff happening, and you want to be part of it. And you join some little group, and you do graphics or music, and you get better, and yeah.
And I guess this is sort of where I think my marketing aspiration fits into. If we don't find new audiences, there is no new recruiting base for any future growth.
Okay, so how many
new blood?
How many members have you gotten lately from your YouTube viewers?
No, they all joined Genesis Project. So
I think it's the wrong approach. I would say that and that's the problem with Gubbdata, because I had invite only. So I was about to say that parties are really great for recruiting you guys.
No, but you know that we create interesting stuff that creates an interest, and then people can join the lower groups where they can sort of be educated, and then eventually they can grow into be FairLighters. That's the logical chain.
Yeah, of course, Pontus.
Yeah. Yes, there needs to be this. There needs to be the little edgy worry thing, and that's yeah. You and me, we need to have that to keep up interest, I would say.
It's fun, and if you're not behaving, I will bring in Raistlin.
Yeah. But you know, he doesn't sort of tickle me, so I know a pitcher goes bonkers when Raistlin goes haywire. Yes. But
I love that. I love that. Some people can take it and they get pissed off for real. But it's a lot of teasing in the scene too, and it's part of it. It's really nice.
I can easily take it because if you could only be like a one-way street where you are harassing people, but if somebody harasses you back, you go bonkers. You can't have that. You need to be. You cannot treat others if you're not ready to be treated the same way yourself. So I'm absolutely ready to be treated.
At the same time, it's really fun to make tease a little, and when people take it seriously, it's even more fun. That's the problem with it.
I have a few examples, but
we shouldn't mention that here.
It should be bad to point out Ed here, so I wouldn't say that. You have been referencing parties, and let's take that. I mean, arranging parties is sort of also key, as you pointed out. There needs to be the social aspect, and back then we were pimpy teenagers, and we were absolutely fine being sort of locked up in our basements with our pimples, not showing anybody our face, and that would be a good thing. But we're no longer there. We need to meet.
Yeah, and it's I would say it's interesting to see the parties of today. You have this huge, we have revision in Germany, for example. It's gigantic. It's super cool. I've never been there, but I've watched it online. It seems like, of course, we have grown up, and we are grown-ups most of the scenes, so we can afford to make these huge parties like revision. Then we have X. X has grown to be the Oscars of the C64 scene, for example. Also super huge, and tells us that, to be able to go to Holland, like 400 people, you have to be have a job and have money to take a flight and everything. But back in the days, I mean, when you contacted your school, can we be here this weekend? Or if you were a little bit older, you could organize perhaps the Furulund parties in Sweden in the 80s. It's close to where I live, by the way. So I've been there and checked it out. I was too young to be there in person in 87, but
Landreth showed up at Gubbdata. So,
yeah, he did. So I almost experienced it. But it's something else, right? I've seen old pictures from you from C64 parties, bigger legendary parties from the 80s. And people taking trains with their huge monitors on the train. Dad drew them there with the car, and they had all their gear in the back seat. I kind of miss that times too.
I don't miss the carrying part of it.
Yeah. No, of course. But it's not the same today. Some parties still try to keep it down to smaller gatherings, like FairLight. We have in Sweden, we have those smaller meetings. I know they have a lot of smaller group meetings in Germany too, and all over the place. What was the question?
I don't remember. The question is less important. The discussion is important, and the views are important. The question is less important. But if you compare the parties, if you compare C64 parties with like multi-platform parties, I know that Wayland is a bit annoyed about the C64 being sort of non-inclusive. We are just 64ers. We don't want anybody else. And he tries to keep like multi-platform access to Edison. Any take on that?
I think you should not be... It's nice to have exclusive C64 parties like X, because it's the Oscars for the C64. So, and that's the point with it. In Gubbdata, it's 90% C64, but we also invited Atari productions, Amiga productions, whatever, Atari, obscure shadow coding stuff on And that was never a problem because the C64 dominated anyhow. And it's just interesting to see what's happening on other platforms. I think this is the point. If you mix modern with retro, that's where my line. I don't want to spend time watching gabber modern music PC stuff half of the time. I want to focus on the old stuff. So I would rather be at a retro demo party with old computers than a mix between modern and retro. That's my little line.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But to be honest, my line is I like to go to places where I can sit down, talk, and hear what the other people are actually talking about. I'm not too fond of the dark and noisy environments. Even if the rest is fine, then if I can't communicate, I'm there to communicate. So if I can't communicate, then I feel like I lost my hearing, and that's not a nice feeling. So that's why I prefer the small, little cozy environments rather than the big noise.
I guess that makes us both gubbar then.
Yes. Gubbe and proud.
Exactly. That was my view on Gubbdata too. I wanted tables, people to sit down, read old data magazines from the 80s, having a nice time.
Good journalists writing for those magazines. Yes.
Yes, I agree. Me too. I write nowadays, and Pontus wrote in the 80s.
Yeah, I did the super stupid thing. I invited Hedning to co-write Demodax, and then by the next issue, I wasn't invited anymore. So.
I hope I'm doing a good job then.
Yes. You did pick on FairLight TV on the most recent one, which I did. That's not cool, but
I have to be honest. Honest journalism,
Yeah. Okay. So party arrangers, that is you have a number of them. I mean, you have the FairLight guys, they are also Genesis members, now Skuggan, is he also Genesis? Yeah.
Yes. So Pågadata this summer will be the continuation of Gubbdata. I've done that for 10 years and that's enough for me right now. So he took over and he will do Pågadata in Kvidinge of all places, little town in the northwest of Skåne,
which is 15 kilometers away from my summer house. So it's going to be super convenient for me.
Yeah, exactly. And I have organized a lot of parties outside or helped with other parties and meetings over the years since I got active again. Like Datastorm, and I helped out with LCP, and I learned a lot during these years, mostly how important they are for revitalizing the scene, dragging in old sceners, inactive sceners to get active again. It's very important.
Yeah, it's like getting new people in is like getting new customer. It's so much easier to sort of retain a relation with existing customers. So waking up people who are just dormant for the time being.
Exactly.
And one other category here, sort of tool producers and people doing work for the group, but not on the actual like retro platform. I'm thinking about guys like Scooby here, and also the guys doing CSDB. That's also one of the roles you could have. If you can program in a modern environment, there might be sort of software needs for the retro groups here.
Yeah, and Assembly 64 is a perfect example. It helps. It's a multi-purpose application for you get all the, if you want, you get all the software from CSDB on a USB stick, nicely sorted for you, or you can use it as a SID player. You can use it as whatever you want. You can connect your Ultimate computers or cartridges to it, and it just use them through the PC and stuff like that. It's amazing, an amazing app, and I think Scooby and the Sarge are doing a great job there. And but that's the huge things. That's the huge. These bigger projects are very important for the whole scene, and not only the scene. They invite everyone to it, like CSDB also does. Then you have the exclusive programmers doing exclusive modern app for C64 stuff. Like we have, when you're going to spread a crack on the boards, it's very inconvenient to use Vice to pack your stuff to zip file or something. Then we have someone just hacking together a PC app for that. So you just click the file and it spits out zip files for you. And that's internal. We have a lot of those internal apps for us too, doing stuff.
Yeah, so, and that one is internal, right? So you don't spread it. I had to write a sexy zipper myself, so because I was annoyed. I thought that was basically going to be a function within the program, so you would just be able to, if you have a terminal program, if that feature was built in, and you could only drop a D64, and it would do a zip conversion and uploading for you, but that's not available. So I've written one of those zippers as well, because I was annoyed that we had to go through Vice and use one of the native tools to do the job. Yeah,
and then we have, of course, the whole BBS scene today. It wouldn't exist without modern platform terminals, like CG Term, and there are newer ones as well. And also, as everyone might know, there are very few real telephone lines these days, so all the C64 BBSs are run through Telnet, which of course needs modern small Raspberry Pis to act like bridges and stuff like that. But I still love the boards that are run on real C64 hardware. I wouldn't call emulated one. I want the real thing. I want the zeros and ones to travel from my real C64 through internet and end up on a real C64 somewhere else. That's the...
And I care about the community, and also the convenience, and I don't mind having modern stuff supporting that retro feel.
No, and we wouldn't have the fantastic demos of today if we haven't had modern, graphic programs and trackers for music and yeah.
I mean, a number of people would like to do everything like manually. You should code it on the C64 if it's going to be released for the C64. And
they couldn't be many.
No. And it's absolutely preposterous. If anybody tried that, they would be retarded.
That's harsh, but yeah.
But it's so inefficient. So I mean, the way forward must be to utilize any tool and mean available to you.
Yes,
to provide something which is giving you the retro experience. But the end result, it's still retro.
Yes, and the end result should be able to run on a stock C64, vanilla C64. Yeah. That's what's important.
Yeah. I'm also fine if it needs, if you have ideas that needs a RAM expansion unit. I'm also fine with that, because that was also one of the things that was available for the original platform. And if you want something that runs on the 1581, the 3.5-inch disk drive, I'm also fine with that, because that was also something that was available for the native platform.
Exactly. And I don't care if you make an oil painting and you scan it and make a nice conversion to the C64 and it's shown on the C64 because you have done it all yourself. I don't care, as long as you've done it yourself. And it's runnable on the C64. I'm fine with it. But you have to have been able to show your skill in some way, instead of just wiring someone else's work. That's really bad.
Yeah, wiring somebody else's work and then just doing a few patches to where the color clashes have been too obvious. And
that's the core of the scene, right?
Yeah,
you want to compete and show what you are able to do yourself with your skill, your own skill.
Yeah, so I guess eventually we are sort of agreeing on most of that. It's just the role of the BBS that we don't agree on.
Yeah, but you agree that we should support that part of the scene as well, because it's part of the scene, of course,
Yeah, absolutely.
Historically.
Yeah.
And that's my only point. I see that it's inconvenient for the poor half Stockholmer Pontus, but we shouldn't go to the moon because it's easy. We go there because it's hard.
Skuggan calls me Bunnarpan. That was really annoying. That was a very internal joke. Skip that if you didn't get it. I will not explain that. So the role of competition, the roles of charts, the role of list, and how do you see that?
The competition has always driven the scene, of course, compos and being first and being best and stuff like that. But when it was really serious, you were a teen, and then it was the life. You really had this true scene wars and people just being rude for real, slamming each other and talking shit and stuff like that. Today,
are we talking OMG now, or
no? We're talking
not specifically. Okay.
No.
But as an example,
he was a hard ass, and he took it seriously, and it was serious back then, today you have to see it for what it is. We're old farts with old computers, and all the tough guys, if they are out there, they keep it to IRC and sit there and whine like it's 1987. The rest of us is like, yeah, we can ironically tease each other and fight. But I mean, when it comes to demo parties, I think still I have seen people cry when they win. It's really that thing that's important, that people are proud. Not it's never you don't hit down, you just celebrate the best ones and let them cry of joy. That's what it's all about.
Would you say that the demos of the C64 today have gotten so good that the threshold for people to actually start has raised so much that it's unreachable?
Even inside the demo scene, there are different approaches, of course. The coders see one thing, the graphicians see something else in the production. That's why voting is irrelevant, because aesthetically pleasing demo doesn't have to be code prone. Even if the coders can masturbate around some quinky stuff that no one understands outside of their little thing, it might be fantastic. I don't know. I'm not a coder myself, but they will celebrate it forever. For me personally, I'm out. I really like the narrative. I like demos with a twist. As long as you have a smart solution to envision and make it real on the C64, I don't care how you do it. I'm sure Raistlin wouldn't agree there, because he's more of a code guy. But he when he sees the final product, when graphicians and musicians and the code guys go together, and they really help each other out to be the best of themselves. It's really amazing to see.
Yeah, but it has to be like that, where 1 + 1 turns to 3, where the graphician says, I would like to see it like this, and the coder says, that's not doable, that's not physically doable on the platform, and the graphician goes, just make it happen, and pushing the coder to new levels, but more graphic driven than tech porn driven.
Yeah, and it's, there is a demo for every taste out there. So I wouldn't say that the threshold is I don't know. Of course, it could feel like impossible to join the C64 if the first thing you see is the top 10 list on CSDB. But there are so much more. You can do Petsky. Join a little compo in Petsky. My daughter, who is 14 now, she made her first Petsky stuff and released it 2-3 years ago, and it was fun, and she was celebrated. because she was so young, and she loved it. She thought there is something for everyone. Depends on what you want to do.
Well, I mean, us who are over 50, we can no longer rely on being promising. We have to be. I mean, we have seen the advent of a few things like Eslöv and dinosaurs and stuff.
The fake scene. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a fun part of it, because if you just want to goof around, I guess, you can do that in the, I don't know what you call it, fake scene or retarded scene, but it's obviously, I hope they're not for real, though. I don't think they are.
and for those of you who don't know what this is, it's these are examples of two groups that are sort of releasing, I would say, deliberately inferior products. They are grossly funny, but and obviously done by people who could code. It's just that they have chosen not to do it to their best ability, but to do it to their like funniest ability.
Yeah, I discussed it with them. I think Mahoney once, and he said it's really hard to make it glitch like that. He said, or something like that. If you want to do good-looking glitches or really bad-looking glitches that doesn't crash the computer, it's pretty hard to code. So, hats off for the skilled fake scene, I would say, and it's really fun. I think it's humor. Of course.
Well, I mean, the sound packer that dinosaurs run, that sound makes it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you should watch dinosaur demos. They are humorously elite.
Or 1338, I think they use instead of 1337, because they are more than elite. Yeah.
That's weird. So if we move on to like the last block, the future, how do you see? Is there a future for the scene or scenes, or what platforms will survive? And is there any future? Are we like the last dying breed?
We are the last dying breed for the C64, I would say, because it's platform driven at least. I don't think the scene, there will always be a scene in some form. We might be too old to see what the new scene is.
Yeah.
But there are many underground creative people doing stuff on modern computers. And I think the C64 scene and the retro scene is mainly driven by people who have a nostalgic view, part of what they grew up with, and there is some fewer, I would say, younger people joining because of the retro. What do you call it? The retro style of today. They like old stuff. They weren't born when they were there, but they like the aesthetics of the pixel graphics and stuff like that. But in 30 years, the computers will die.
Is that a fashion thing that will drift away in a few years, or do you think that is sort of a lasting view that they will have?
I don't know. I kind of saw 10 years ago the 80s was the thing, and now it's the 90s. So I guess we have 10 years more with the potential recruitments of youngsters. So the retro scene will be, I guess, around for, this is just me guessing, but as long as we are around, we will push out stuff when we feel like it. And give it 30, 40 years more, maybe. It will slowly fade out, I guess. But the main thing here is to, and that's the most important of the archival business, to save what's there to give us our legacy in the future, I guess. This what we lived. We did this. This is here, like a rune stone. I was here. I could write runes, and I put this stone here for 1,000 years, and I'm happy with that.
That could actually be the last word, because that is sort of preserving an era of creativity from a number of people who were doing it as teens and now doing it again as grade old guys, and then creating our rune stones that will possibly last forever.
And inspire new generations to do their stuff, I guess, and hope.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
That we hope. There will be new rune
carvers
yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. Rune carving forever. That's
yes,
it.
That's it.
Super nice, Hedning. This has been super nice talking to you, and I think we have a very good length episode, unlike a few of the others that have been very much too long.
And thanks for having me.
Great that you could take the time, and looking forward to see you at the Pågadata next time, I guess, unless we meet sooner.
Yeah, very nice to that you had me here, and have a nice sunny day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was this week's episode of FairLight TV. I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Hedning is a super nice guy with a long experience and mostly healthy views. He does like Atari ST. But apart from that, a super solid guy, and I'm really proud to call him my friend, even if I pick on him every now and then on FairLight TV. That's part of the fun, and we both enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.